All right, so welcome to our second lesson of Precalculus officially. Today's date is Thursday, August 27th, 2020. We're doing complex numbers, the shadow realm of the numbers. So we've already talked about this before, so this might be kind of a review, but let's go ahead and do our objective. Make sure that everyone's videos are on, microphones off, username is first name and last name real quick. If I have to remind any specific person, then you're going to start losing some points. Quiet raised hand either in their camera or with a Zoom interface. Who wants to read the objective? Caroline, go for
it. Classify parts of complex numbers and graph them on the complex plane.
There it is. All right, so let's go ahead and learn about those parts, and then eventually we'll learn about the plane. So typically we use the letter Z, lowercase z, to say you are a complex number, although almost everything that you see and have seen is a complex number. Very rarely in high school do you see anything that is not a complex number. So Z typically means complex number. And then what are the parts of a complex number? They have two parts, always two parts, even if you can't see one of them. They have this A, which is the real part that you've all seen before. That's like a number 2 or 5 or pi or E, just a normal number. That's the real part. But the B, the BI, this whole piece right here is the imaginary part. Yeah, Jane, what's up?
Are we doing that weird thing where the school meets? Are we still doing that or no?
Advisory, yeah, advisory is happening today at the beginning of the 7th period in Mr. Goodaway's classroom for 10 minutes.
Oh, so it is like mandatory?
It is mandatory, yes.
Okay. Right.
Because then you immediately go into your 7th period after that. Okay, and then this entire term BI is your imaginary part. This is, I'm not trying to confuse you here. I did put an I. Sometimes people just put A plus B and say B has to have an I in it. I put the I as a reminder that it should have some sort of imaginary part. So an example of what might be for this entire spot, for that second position, you could have something like 2I or 3I. Those are all imaginary numbers. They're purely imaginary, but they're a form of complex number. And to try to explain that as best as I can, I used this little chart down here. So complex numbers include everything. They include real numbers, and real numbers include rational numbers, and rational numbers include integers. Integers include whole numbers. Rational and irrational are technically part of real numbers, and complex numbers include everything you've ever seen. Fractions, irrational numbers like pi or square root of 2, and also now these imaginary units that we were talking about in last lesson. So complex numbers are everything. So a general rule of thumb, especially when you're working on the homework tonight, everything is always complex. You'll have like a checkbox on, is this real? Is this imaginary? Is it complex? You are always going to check the box that says complex because everything you have ever seen so far is complex. If you want to talk to me after class and what is something that's not complex, then I can get to quick turnings and stuff like that. There we go. Let's go ahead and go through a really quick example. What is the real part of this complex number 6 minus 4i? I see no one's raised their hand. I am looking at your cameras. I'm just kind of staring at your cameras right now. The real part. There's one part and another part. Yeah, Ellery?
The real part is 6.
6, there it is.
Do you want me to say the imaginary as well?
Go for it, yeah.
The imaginary is negative 4i.
Negative 4i, yeah. And because Khan Academy, they automatically put the I in there for you, you can just say that the imaginary part is the negative 4. That is the part that you can write. I don't think they want you to write the I, although I haven't done this assignment in like a year or so. So I'm just going to say negative 4. I'm pretty sure that's what they want from Khan Academy because they automatically put the I in there for you. All right. Next problem, example 2. What type of number is that thing? And you're going to mark all answers that apply. So you can say A, B, and C. You can all mark all 3 if you want. So someone new, someone that has yet to speak yet. What type of number is 104i minus 33.24. Notice that you can write them in any order. This time I wrote the imaginary part first. The I came first, not second. So that entire number, what is it? You have to kind of look at your chart up above here. Where does this number belong? If I had to put that number, does it belong? Obviously, it's oh, I'm not going to give too much away. I've already repeated myself enough times. What type of number is that? So I see Ellery has her hand raised. I'm going to call on someone new though.
Can you go down a little bit?
Yeah. All right, I'm going to just randomly call on someone. Let's go with Aurelio.
Uh-oh. What am I looking at here, boss?
What type of number is 104i minus 33.24? It's either A and B, A, B, and C. It could be all of these. It could be none of them. Well, it's going to be one of them at least.
I don't know. Pure imaginary?
Not quite. So pure imaginary would be something like 4i, just 4i. Do you mind if I give it to another student? There's one other
Yeah,
student that's raising
go
their
for
hand. All right, let's go with Beverly. Thank you, Aurelio.
Is it real and complex?
So you're going to go with A and C like that?
Yeah.
So not quite. So a real number would be just a number like 3 or 7 or pi. But notice that this also has an I in it. An I is imaginary. So I guess another way of saying real is pure real. But you don't typically say that in math. So it's not only real, it has an imaginary part also. So as you said, it is complex because it has both parts. And I said this before, as a rule of thumb on Khan Academy, it's always going to be at least complex, and then you have to choose between these other two if they are included. Let's try another one. Okay, example 3, what type of number is 78? And again, if I was doing notes and I didn't have anything printed out, I would just write 78. That's it. And then I will write down the answer. It's going to be blank and blank. I don't need to write down A, B, and C and then circle one. It's too much work. Keep your notes nice and simple. All right, who wants to take a shot at this one? You know one of the answers. I told you, you're always gonna mark one of them. I see Ellery has her hand raised. I'm gonna call someone new, sorry, Ellery. Oh yeah, Emily.
Real?
Real, you're correct. There's gonna be at least one more answer.
And pure imaginary?
Not quite, because you don't see any I component. So therefore, by process of elimination,
Complex.
there it is, yeah. It's both real and complex. And again, you wanna be thinking of where does this 78 belong in terms of our diagram? If I come all the way up here, 78 is a whole number. 78 is like the simplest number that you can have. So 78 is both a whole number, it is an integer, it is a rational number, it is a real number, it is a complex number, but 78 is not an irrational number and 78 is not an imaginary number. All right, and that's kind of the classifying parts type of question that we'll have. So that's one homework assignment. But we also need to graph them on the complex plane. That's the second part of our objective. So let's talk about the complex plane. And if I'm going too fast, you can tell me that I'm going too fast in the feedback. I'm trying to look at the feedback window too, just in case you are saying I'm going too fast. It just means half of my screen is covered by Zoom interface.
Mr. Sindel,
Yeah, what's up, Sam?
it's hard to keep up because you have to like start writing all the things and then yeah, it's hard to catch up.
Okay, so just as a reminder, like all you have to write for this one is 78. What is this? And then you write down your answer. It's real and it's complex. You don't have to write down all of this stuff. You literally have to write down this for your notes. 78 is real and it's complex.
Okay.
All right. And of course, all of these notes are available filled and blank and stuff on the website. And the video is going to be posted here by around 3 o'clock today, hopefully, maybe a little bit later. All right, so now we're going to be plotting complex numbers. So this looks like a Cartesian graph. It looks like an X and a Y axis. These are not X and Y axes, though. This is a real axis and an imaginary axis. So I say that the old X axis is our real. It's supposed to be an E. I just say RE because that's how we abbreviate real. And imaginary, IM, that's how I'm going to abbreviate imaginary. The old Y-axis is our new imaginary axis. So I'm still taking in two inputs. I'm taking in a real input and an imaginary input, and I'm going to output a point somewhere on this grid. I should also write down that this thing right here is called the complex plane, which is different than the old one. The old one, I can write it down too. The old one, oh, I can't spell. The old one was called the, I can say the coordinate or Cartesian plane. And that was the one that had an X and a Y. Okay, so I want to graph -6 minus 3i. So you can, like, I have another graph on here. Again, because you're doing notes and you're handwriting them, just write them on the graph that you just already wrote. You don't have to have a whole nother graph, but here we go. -6 minus 3i, and you don't have to have grids or anything if you're doing your own notes. Just graph it somewhere and then say it is this many right and this many up. You can maybe go like, see, it's 3 to the right or something like that. Okay, so I'm going to plot -6 minus 3i on this complex plane. How am I going to do that? Does anyone have an idea of what you would do, where that point belongs? I see Ellery has her hand raised. Ellery, you've been super patient. I'll give it to you.
Is it like, so the real number, it's the x-axis, so you would go to -6 on the real line, and then since -3i is the imaginary axis, then you would go down -3, and then that's where your point would be at -6, comma -3.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, and then the old way of saying this is at -6 comma -3, which is okay. That's the Cartesian coordinates. But if I had complex coordinates, the complex coordinates are -6 minus 3i. So the way that I'm going to label this point is it's -6 minus 3i. -6 minus 3i is right there. Chunk. So we're moving away from Cartesian coordinates, the x comma y in parentheses, and we just write the complex number. -6 minus 3i is right there. Again, left 6 because that's left 6 on the real, down 3 on the imaginary. Perfect. It was well explained. I just rehashed it. All right, and then let's try another one. On the same complex plane above, now try to graph -2 and then plus I. Where does that belong? -2 plus I. All right, just give me a thumbs up if you have an answer. Do you have an answer? Thumbs up. Okay, I'm 100% calling on someone new for this one. And if no one volunteers, I will pick someone.
Mr. Sindel, I'm putting my charger in. Just give me a second.
Okay.
So I'm just.
I'm gonna pick someone. Who's my lucky victim today? Leo.
No, thank you.
You got this, man. -2 plus I.
I don't know what we're doing, to be honest with you.
Okay, so -2 is going to be the first direction. You're going to go either left or right 2, and then plus 1i, so you're going to either go up or down 1. So which way are we going first? From the origin, where do we go?
So you go left 2,
Left 2 and
up 1.
up 1. Leo has the correct answer. Everyone else, make sure that you have Leo's answer. This is the coordinate -2 plus I. Thank you, Leo. That's all I have for you guys today. There's no more notes. Everything down here is blank. So I don't know if I said this, and if I did, I'll say it again. Notes need to be uploaded to Google Slides. Your first official check for those slides are going to be tomorrow. So you're going to have both these notes, and since we have a quiz tomorrow, you don't have anything after that. So both 1-1 and 1-2, both with completed summaries, need to be uploaded to Google Slides by tomorrow. That grade is going into Aries. I'll probably do it either late Friday or early Saturday. Yeah, and then I think there's 3 assignments on Khan Academy, but they go really, really quick.
Mr. Sindel, can you go up a little bit?
Yeah.